This is a Kahan TV sports break. We got another NBA segment here with our correspondent, Vlad Kitajczyk. He's our resident NBA expert at Kahan TV Studios. Mm-hmm. And we got our one of my favorite topics to talk about. It's the Chicago Bulls. And I like them. I like, honestly, at every game, I see what try to see what happens with the Bulls. Like, you know, they have superstars. They have Derrick Rose. No, they don't have Derrick Rose. I'm sorry. They have Dwayne Wade. And then they have Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. And I consider Rondo still a star player from a championship winning team. Mm-hmm. And but they're just a mess. I mean, they blame each other when things go wrong. They say this guy's not playing hard enough. This guy's not practicing. Right. I mean, Rondo was critical of Dwayne Wade for not doing practices because he's old. Right. And then Jimmy Butler is critical of the coaching staff and the other players. And then Dwayne Wade's just saying, like, we're just not caring. Right. And they take every loss so hard, but they are, like, on the bubble. They seem like they're a good team, like they could compete with anyone on their day. Well, I think they're in the playoffs as we're talking. I think they're like a 7th seed, or 7th or 8th seed. That's the bubble to me. Yeah, they're definitely on the bubble as far as that goes. Yeah, I'm just saying they're in the playoffs, so they're not completely out of it. And I think they'll probably end up making it. But yeah, I think they'll make it too. But I just like the dysfunction. It's really it's always entertaining. There's no story here other than the fact that I think they're a team that thinks they're better than they are. Right. Dwayne Wade has a big ego. Mm-hmm. He thinks he could lead a team to a championship. Yeah. On any given day, I think he thinks he could take a team to victory any single day by himself. Right. So he's got a lot riding on this. He's in his hometown again. He's in Chicago. And he's got Jimmy Butler playing there too. So basically 2-star attacking players. Right. And on the offensive end, and they should be a good team. That's probably why it's so amusing to me that they're so dysfunctional and they have these issues. But what do you think of the Bulls? Do you think they'll have any chance to get it together? Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yes, they kind of been playing a little bit better recently since all this stuff, but obviously, like when you have players calling each other out on in post-game interviews and players calling each other out on Twitter and players Twitter. It's a social media is a big thing now. It's become that's really where players are calling each other out. Players they just get pissed off. They go into the locker room and they like go in the corner like, and then they just tweet something angry out like, "Fuck this guy." Well, it's quite possible. Yes, that happens. That's basically what it's like now. Like you have to control yourself not to go on social media, and get all angry and crazy on the world. But I just think as far as who was right or who was wrong, I don't know. I think definitely you definitely see Wade's point of view. He's a guy that's he was used to kind of playing at least more competitively in Miami. Even last year they made the Eastern semis, almost made it to the Eastern Finals with the Heat. And this team is totally disarray. And it's because there's a lot of things. There's the head coach, not the guy for this team at all. It was a horrific hire. If they're going to fire Tom Thibodeau, who's been a great coach, they needed a little bit more than Fred Hoiberg, because he's not the guy to coach a group like this. This is a volatile group. They have big personalities in the locker room. Butler is, he's mouthy. He's going to give his opinion. Wade is, used to having some sort of decorum on a franchise, some sort of level of excellence that he's used to playing with the Heat under Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. And Mickey Harrison, their owner. So he's used to having a certain way. And then Rondo, I don't really see what Rondo is even talking about. The guy's been awful. He has no right to speak at all. I understand that he doesn't want to be called out, maybe, but nobody actually talked about him specifically when Butler and Wade made those comments. So I don't know what he was so upset about. He's been awful. He's been stealing money from teams ever since he left. I think Boston. I think those were his last good years. For him to go say stealing money from teams. In the last segment, it was Derrick Rose stealing money from teams. Well, Rose has been stealing money mostly because of his injuries and the fact that he doesn't really care about basketball. He's this guy, but Rondo is more
more of just like he's not a great player. He can't shoot. I told you that from the beginning. That's going to be something that hinders that team. Because if you can't shoot it in today's league, it's not like the old days where you could just be a great defensive player and harass the other point guards, and that's good enough. Kind of be that passing guy like Jason Kidd was or something like that.
He was on a championship team, though. He was a starting player on a championship team. What happened there?
10 years ago, though.
How did the Celtics get around the fact that he didn't shoot back then?
I mean, he still did other things well at that time, and he still was more motivated to do those type of things. But now he's older, and he still can't shoot. He's never improved his shot. He's never done anything that really helped his offensive game. He's still the same player he was, except older now. So he's not as good as he was 10 years ago when he was a young player. And that's it. I mean, he's not effective anymore. That's the bottom line. And yes, he could still dribble, and he can still drive the lane, and he could still create for other guys, but he's just not effective. I mean, if you watch him play, anybody that's seen him play, the Bulls fans can tell you that I've watched him, he's been ineffective. He's been benched by Hoiberg, and that's the one good thing Hoiberg had to do, because the guy's not doing anything for you. But I don't want to spend too much time on Rondo. I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's pretty obvious what's going on there. I just think that the only question is now, what will the Bulls do going forward? Will they hold on to Butler? Is that something they're going to look to trade in the offseason? What is Wade going to do? I mean, obviously he signed a deal with them. Does he want to remain there? Is he going to try to play with his best buddy LeBron? I mean, that's a possibility. He could try to force something, to the Cavs. That's always been one of those rumors that's been out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's something that's been thrown out. So we'll see. But the Bulls, like you said, great story if you like drama and chaos, because that's what they've been. Kind of like the Knicks, but maybe not as extreme. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Not as extreme, because I think they definitely still have a little more coherence on the court.
Yeah.
At least.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. They're not as awful franchise as the Knicks. I mean, but they have had some. There's been some weird things going on with that franchise for a long time, but how they treat their coach, these good coaches that have been there for a while now. With Jerry Krause back with Phil Jackson, that was insane. And now how they totally treated Thibodeau was a disgrace. I mean, for a guy that did so well for them to treat him that way, out when they kicked him out the door, and so they've treated players and coaches, not they just have not treated their employees very well, and I think. They're starting to see some of the fallout from that, as you can see the circus atmosphere going on there as well.
Well, it was weird that they let go of Thibodeau, and then the next year after that, Jimmy Butler. This was last year, right? Jimmy Butler was critical of the coaching staff, that they weren't as hard, and they let Thibodeau go because he was too hard on people,
right?
And then Jimmy Butler was saying that they're not hard enough now, And I don't know, there was just things about they didn't like Thibodeau for some reason.
Well, yeah, they had some things they could say about him, that he wore out his players, that he played the major minutes, that he didn't rest them enough, and that, you could say some of these things, and they were fair.
And that they just needed a fresh voice in the franchise, maybe. They thought maybe he got them as far as they could just by being a motivating coach, but they wanted someone else to come in and tactically help this team.
But you can't, I'll just say this, with him, his last year there, they played the Cavs pretty, they lost in 6 to them, but they were probably the second best team in the Eastern Conference that year. Without him, that same team could not make the playoffs. Embarrassing. Okay, and now this that same team, they brought that whole team back. Rose was still there.
They had a lot of injuries though. That team was always weird. Rose hardly ever played. Pau Gasol was injured a lot too.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, not to make the playoffs with that team. They were pretty much. Rose was healthy that year. So I mean, yeah, he probably did miss some games, but yeah, no, that's unexcusable. I mean, they were the second best team in the East.
That was last year.
Last year, I'm talking about last year when they had those guys. So I mean, yeah, Hoiberg was just a bad hire. I mean, I don't think any Bulls fans will say different. I can imagine anybody defending the guy, and so they reap what they sow. You do that type of changes that don't make sense, or they're just bad moves that everybody knows are going to be bad moves going in, and this is what you get. You get kind of this.
Yeah. Well, we shall see what happens, and the story's not over yet. I think they'll make for an interesting first round playoff matchup.
That's for sure.
It'll be a good matchup. Whoever it is. If I mean, a second seed does not want to see the Bulls coming in. That's a tough matchup for a team just playing a 4 out of 7. Like if it's gonna be the Wizards or the Celtics,
right?
Something like that. Playing that'll be and the Bulls might get knocked out in the first round, but that's an interesting matchup. So
I agree.
That'll be like the highlight of the first round for me, I think. And there'll probably be some good stuff in the West too, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all for today. Sports break. Vlad, thanks for coming in. Always, you're the man. Anything you want, within reason, we got you.
I appreciate that, and like I said, this is like a second home. This is fantastic. I love this place. It's amazing.
Kayhan TV Studios, it's the place to be. Have a good night.